RV owners, one of the most popular upgrades in an RV is fantastic fans or upgraded roof vents. They pull a lot more air, they're a lot more high quality, and it's probably one of the first things I see most people upgrade in an RV. Today I'm going to be showing you how to install one of those fans, and even better, I'm going to be showing you how to install one where there wasn't one before. Now, we did install one in the bathroom here already. That was a simple replacement because there was already a bath fan. But back here in the bedroom, we do not have a vent to replace, so we're going to be cutting a new hole in the roof and installing a vent fan and running power over to it. Now, if you just want to install a fan and replace one and you don't need to see the process of cutting a new hole, go ahead and skip yourself over to this timestamp right here. That's where I begin the actual installation. And I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get into it. Now, the absolute most important step here is going to be planning. We're going to be putting this vent right here. That's where the customer wants it. You're going to need to verify. Is there anything on the roof that's going to be in that area? Is there anything within the ceiling? Are there ceiling trusses? Now, if you look at your ceiling, you'll see like batten strips or usually an area where there's some kind of seam tape. It's usually an indicator that there's a truss there or support across the ceiling. Now, there are going to be some that are in between as well, so you're going to have to kind of feel around, look for those staples. One of the easier things you can do, and the way that I do it to take extra precaution, because once you drill that hole, it's permanent, is I will actually pop this ceiling panel down, which isn't that difficult. In a lot of these RVs, like this one in particular, I can get this batten strip down right here, and there's just some little finish nails holding that panel up. So I can pop it down enough to get a flashlight or something up there and make sure that that work area that I have is clear and that I'm not going to be drilling through anything important, especially wiring. That's the sketchy one. Even if you confirm there's no obstructions such as, you know, trusses or any kind of structure or duct work up there from the air conditioning, you still have to worry about electrical being up there. So I'll be honest with you, popping the panel down and seeing what's up there with your own two eyes is probably your absolute best option. Now, a couple tools that'll help you with this process, because you can't get this ceiling panel all the way down. It's sitting on top of the walls, so you're not going to be able to pop the whole thing down, and it's not worth all that time, is if you have some kind of stick. This is just a pointer that I use for instructions sometimes. I know I have a truss right here, so if I can shove this stick down and touch the other truss, and run that along and verify how much space I have in here, what I can do is push that stick to the back to where it stops and then actually pull it out and verify, like, lengthwise how much I have. And then the other option would be to use a borescope, which is a camera on the end of a cable that you can shove down there, like giving your ceiling a colonoscopy. These are pretty inexpensive these days. This used to be a pretty expensive tool. These can be had for a few dollars now, and they're actually a pretty valuable tool to have in an RV so you can see behind things and see in your underbelly, things like that. Definitely one of my more used tools. If you want one of these, I do have one on my Amazon storefront on my website. But yeah, those are two things that can really help you. Spend the time doing this. You know, that's why I'm really focusing on this part of the video, is this is probably one of the most important parts, is make sure that you spend the time looking around. Again, you can only do this once. You're drilling a hole through your roof and your ceiling. Make sure you do it right. Here's a really good example of why that pre-check is so important, and all those measurements and verifying is in front up here where the vent wants to go, it can't go because of the way they supported the roof. They double trussed for the air conditioner, and there's just simply not enough space. You need a 14 by 14 hole, and I have just shy of 13 inches between the trusses up there, so we actually have to come to right here where I have the space to do so. I've got the camera in there, shined a light in there, made sure we're all good. So now I'm just going to mark out where this fan's going to go. I'm going to use a square, make sure I get a nice square hole in here. I've got my two first starting dots kind of going here. Now I'm going to make a 14 by 14 box, and we're going to start cutting. Now when we cut this hole, we're going to go from the bottom up, meaning we're going to cut the ceiling first. The roof is going to be absolutely last. That should all be cut out. Now we have a nice little piece of ceiling panel. I actually recommend keeping these if you ever cut any pieces of wall or ceiling out, because you can reuse these if you ever have to like patch something or go back over a hole. Won't be the prettiest thing, but at least it will match. And now we can look and see just how close we were to 120 volt AC wiring and 12 volt DC wiring up here that were kind of hidden away. Also found some zip ties. Never know what treasures you're going to find in the ceiling. These are like not even used zip ties. There's a bunch of them up here. How many more can I find? I'm going to put them in stock. Got the insulation out of the way. And don't just throw the insulation away. I actually try and tuck it back into some of these cavities before I install the fan. Oh, look at that. You can see how many missed nails they had on the roof and just how close they were to nailing some of this 120 volt wiring and 12 volt wiring, which I see all the time on brand new units. But yeah, try and reuse some of your insulation there, and keep some of it in there. The more insulation you have, the better. But now we have access to create our template to the roof, and I'll show you how I do that. And again, we'll be going from the bottom up to make sure that our hole here matches the roof. And to do that, I'm going to show you a real simple trick, and you're just going to need a marker and a drill bit. You're going to go to each corner just like this and go straight up, make a dot where you're going to drill a hole up. Try and keep that marker as straight as possible. Now with the 14-inch hole, you have just shy of a 1/4 inch to play with when it comes to the fan. So if you're a tiny bit off, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You could also shim the hole a little bigger or make it a little bigger if need be. It's much better to start off small and to add than to cut it too big to begin with. Now we're just going to take a small drill bit and go up into those dots. Now that we have those 4 little holes in each corner drilled up to the roof, we're going to go up to the roof with our square, a marker, and a small saw. Now I have my 4 holes drilled up here in these 4 corners here. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. We're going to mark out our square up here, and from there we'll be able to start cutting. And once you have that marked out, the first thing you're going to want to do is going to be to cut the membrane with a razor knife, so you can verify that when you're using a saw or whatever you're using to cut through the roof panel, that you don't end up grabbing the roof membrane and tearing it all up. There we go. Now we can cut this out, and we are ready to install a fan after that. So we've got that cut out. Now we have a big hole in the roof. Now that we have our hole cut, the very first thing we're going to do is clean the area around, because we're going to want to make sure that all the sealants we use and the butyl tape are going to stick properly. So we need to make sure that we have a clean surface. Always remember, when you're cleaning your roof, don't use anything with acetone. Don't use anything with any kind of petroleum distillates in it. All products that contain petroleum distillates will tell you that. So be careful about what you use on your roof. Now, this fan that I'm using, the Maxxfan, has a separate mounting ring. The fan itself will mount onto this ring. Your fan may be built onto the flange itself. Either way, the process is the same. You're going to need butyl tape. Butyl tape is the primary seal for everything on your RV. The lap sealant is just flashing, if you will. This is the real winner. This is definitely not a step that you want to skip, in other words. They do make liquid butyl that you can get like in a caulk tube. That stuff's alright too. I like this because it's thick, so it ends up having some more build to it. When you're done, it should look like that. Make sure you're covering all the screw holes and getting completely around it, and that it's all even. Should stick to it just fine. And then this should just drop right down into the roof. Now that we have that flange in place, we can start screwing the thing down. Make sure it's oriented properly. Don't over tighten. As with anything on your roof, there's no point in over tightening or using an impact, because it's very thin wood. You're just going to end up stripping it out.
And what you'll start to see is the butyl will actually start squishing out on the outside. It means it's doing its job. It's creating that nice watertight seal. And if you're using a Maxxfan, don't drop any screws because they give you exactly the amount of screws you need for this flange. But now that flange is done, and depending on your fan and what model it is, this one again, the fan's not here, but the flange is. We could seal this now. I found that when doing the Maxxfans, if you seal it first and then try and install the fan, you're bound to get your hands in the sealant. So what I do is I will manually open the fan so that I've got a little extra room underneath it, and I will mount it down that way. Getting this fan mounted while open gives me access to all the flange around the outside, so I can seal it with this in place. I'm going to get my screws in the side because this particular model is secured from the side, and I can install it there, and then we'll get it sealed up. As you can see, we've got all that sealed up nice and pretty. No point in doing a tutorial on that stuff. There's some different videos for that. So now we can remove the protective plastic, which I always wait till absolutely last to do because, you know, I like to make a mess. I'm a messy person. There we have it, a vent installed on the roof. Now let's go inside and finish it up. Now in order to do that, tap into this line here. We're going to be using some Scotch locks. Gotcha. Just kidding. We're going to be using Wagos. No, butt connectors. Going to cut the lines, tap into them, and get power from there. I'm not going to cover too much on this because every situation is going to be a little bit different as far as what you have, what you're grabbing off of. I don't want you to follow too much of my instruction that may not necessarily apply. This is the one part, kind of like cutting the hole, that's just not going to be the same for everybody. In all seriousness too, guys, Wagos are perfectly acceptable in a situation like this. Very low amp draw on a 12-volt circuit. Seeing them on air conditioners and such, well, that's a different story. Also, luckily for me, the black and white wire that I found up there matches the black and white here. When you're working on an RV, a lot of companies like to do color coding now. White is almost always going to be your negative, and the color is going to be the positive. Notoriously, we've always used black and white in the RV industry. Black is positive, white is negative, and now we've gone to some more color-coded wiring diagrams, which is fine. But again, the colored side of the wire is usually your positive, but get your meter out and verify. I take it my power is working because the vent just got power and closed itself. So we're all good. Do a little test run here. Make sure it's all working before we start getting the shroud and everything cleaned up. It's working great. Now we can start tidying up the wires into the ceiling, and we will get to the shroud, which is a challenge in itself with the curved roofs and the different shapes and waves they make. You're going to have to cut that shroud. I'm going to show you just how easy that can be too. So the shroud, again, you know, it is going to be custom fit. Super easy. Going to get it up in there until it stops. Make sure it's nice and in the channel of the fan. And whatever gap you have on either side, so I have a gap on this side, and I have a gap on this side, from the ceiling to the flange. I'm going to measure that. So for instance, all the way up, I have 1.75 inches hanging down on this side, and about 1/2 inch on this side. So I'm going to come to this side, and I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. So this side is marked 1/2 inch. And then we'll go to this side and we'll mark 1.75 inches. Then you'll take a straight edge and a Sharpie and connect all the dots. As you can see, that will match my roof profile now. The side that's 1.75 inches is that way all the way across. And again, going from the side, you can see we're matching that roof profile now. You can develop your own way of doing this, but that's the way I've always done it, and it always comes out perfect. Now you can see with it cut, it has that angle in there. I recommend cutting this with a oscillating tool. It's like the least messy. It doesn't really melt the plastic, but whatever you have that will cut plastic, you can use that. But now we've got the matching roof profile, and we're gonna go ahead and pop it up. Gonna check the fitment, make sure everything's good. It's all good to go. Once you know that all of it fits, everything sits nice and flush, you can go ahead and mount it. I hope you watched this and saw that some things aren't always as difficult as people make them out to be, but
I also want you to see that there are a lot of hidden things you need to pay attention for. Again, the power in the ceiling, your trusses and stuff. Don't just start getting willy-nilly going, I want a fan here and I'm just going to cut a hole, because in an RV, you might end up having a really, really bad day because of it. And hey, if you guys like this video and you want to see some more tech tips, tricks, and even some tours and RVs like this one, make sure you guys are pressing that subscribe button.